Hey, welcome to class. We've made it to the month of December. Things continue to be very difficult, very challenging. I know it's tough for you guys, especially doing all this screen stuff with school, and now you have to do it here at confirmation too. But I really do appreciate your patience and your perseverance and your understanding as we try to do things very differently. There is, of course, a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel now as they talk about vaccines and some effective and safe vaccines, but we still have a ways to go. I don't know how things are going to continue to play out. Nobody does. We've made predictions before and then things have gone differently. But my hope as I look at the news and as I interpret it, kind of poorly I suppose, as best I can, but I'm really hoping that we're able to be back in church in worship by Easter, by early April. Maybe before then, but at least by April. And I haven't quite finished the schedule for January through May. I'm going to work on that. It might even be out by the time you watch this, but I'm working on that even as I speak. I'm thinking about it, and I'll be working on it. But I think at least for January and February, we'll follow the same pattern we have so far, and that is I'll post a video by the last Wednesday of December so that the first Wednesday of January we can Zoom and talk about it, and then we'll do the same thing in February. I'll post it by the end of January, so the first Wednesday in February we can get together for a short Zoom to kind of talk about what we might have learned on the video. I'm hoping that after Easter, maybe we can get together in person for the first time. I really hope that can happen. And if it does, that would be fabulous, because that would also mean that we'd be maybe able to have a real normal confirmation worship service, unlike we had to do last year. But we'll wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. As Dr. Fauci, the national expert, has said, it's up to the virus, and maybe now with the vaccine, it's a little bit up to us, but the virus is still pretty strong and pretty prevalent. So we really need to be careful, and we need to be careful. So please continue to be safe. We have been very fortunate at our Saviors. We've had a number of families that have had COVID, but none of them really, really seriously. So, and I really don't want to do any funerals. I really don't. So please be safe. Please be safe. Not only for your sake, but especially for the sake of the people around you. You're young, you're strong, you're healthy. You might be okay, but you don't want to give it to somebody else. And you don't want to have that happen, especially in your family. So please be safe. Continue to wear the masks. Do the things you need to do. I know it's not fun. I know it's not something we like to do, but we need to do it. So, having said all of that, I lost my pointer. Where'd my pointer? Oh, there it is. So, we want to get started. This year, we've been talking about discipleship, about being disciples of Jesus. And wow, during a pandemic, that's more important than ever. I mean, just think about the impact you can make being a disciple of Jesus in a very mixed up, broken, crazy, hurting world. There are just so many ways that you can do that. And I want to give you a little bit of an example of what you can do. Okay, so here's it's from my own experience. So about a week and a half ago, and you might remember this. I mentioned this on the worship video this past weekend, the November 22nd worship video. But I was in an eating establishment here in West Salem. I went in to do a takeout order. That's how we've been doing it since the pandemic began. And it was a place we hadn't gone to very often. And I went in, they told me 45 minutes. So I came in after 45 minutes and they said, oh, it'll be another 20 minutes. And I was not happy. I didn't say anything. I just made it real obvious, not real happy. And so I walked out, came over to the office here to kill a few minutes, came back after 20 minutes. Oh, it's gonna be another 10 minutes. I thought, oh man. So I sat down in the building, and the owner, I think it was, came out and said, can I get you something? Can I get you a pop or something? I said, no, it's all right, it's all right. And I sat there and I thought, I am stressed out, but these people are trying to make a living too. I mean, their world is turned upside down. Things are goofy, and I need to just chill. And so when I went up to get the food, and by the way, the food was really good. I took it home, and Pastor Gene said, it's pretty good stuff. We gotta go back there again sometime. They took a few bucks off. I tried to talk them out of it, so I gave them a big tip. Because I realized that part of my being a disciple of Jesus for them is maybe to show a little bit of understanding, and to be willing to just relax a little bit more and know that they're struggling too, that we're all struggling, and that I need to be a little more understanding. So maybe that's a small gift you can give to somebody. In the midst of these tense days, to be understanding of others who are also tense, who are also uncertain, who are also maybe filled with a little apprehension, anxiety, and fear, and just to let them know it's okay, it's okay. I'm going to give you the gift of understanding. I didn't do a real good job. I'm working on it, so maybe you can work on it. Maybe you can do better than I did. So anyway, we're talking about discipleship. And the first month, September, we talked about the things that God has given you, the gifts and the abilities that God has given you. We're going to come back to that today a little bit. The next month, October, we talked about how we deal with younger kids, little kids, younger kids, maybe kids who look up to us. We become role models for them. Remember, we did that in October. And in a kind of a strange way, we're going to come back to that a little bit today too. And then in November, last month, we talked about working with older adults, senior citizens, and maybe appreciating the gifts that they have to offer to us and the ways that they can be important to us. And we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit today too, in kind of a roundabout way. But before we get to all the stuff we need to do today, I want to remind you to do your worship notes, okay? So maybe it isn't quite as bad as the old days when you sat in the pew and kind of, like that. With the video, you can always put on pause and take a break and shut it off, whatever you need to do. But please continue to do your worship notes. Remember that the form is on the website. I've been very impressed with a lot of you and some of the things, the observations you've been making about the message and about the gospel, the good news of Jesus, even in a really tough time. So don't forget to take care of that. So, having said that, it is now on to our show. So what's our show about this month? Our show is about families, okay? Families. We all find ourselves in some kind of a family unit. Traditionally, we thought of a family being mother, father, sister, brother, and maybe a cat and a dog, maybe a goldfish. But families can come in a little different sizes and little different shapes, little different configurations, and that's okay. Because what makes a family is that this is a group of people, sometimes blood related, but not always. We'll talk about that, not always, but people who are gathered together by God to grow, to nurture each other, to strengthen each other, and to be partners together in a journey of life, a journey that sometimes is pretty fun, sometimes not so much. So the other thing you need to remember, though, is normally we would do this the Wednesday of Hanging of the Greens, which would be the first Wednesday of December, and we would do it with parents. I'd have your parents sitting here with us. You want to go grab mom and dad and make them watch this? Go right ahead. You can tell them I said so. Just start the video right now so they don't know that I wasn't necessarily expecting it. But I want you to imagine parents are here too, because while parents need to hear some of this, you need to hear too, and you need to hear what parents need to hear, if that made any sense. So let's get started. And what we're going to start with is I'm going to make a statement. Kids are worth something, right? You guys, you're worth something. You have value. So let's take a look at some examples of value. This is a scripture reading, and I'm going to read it too because you might not see it as well on the screen. This is from the Old Testament, from 1 Samuel chapter 1, 9 to 18. Okay, so let me read the story and then I'll tell you what's going on. One time, after they had finished their meal in the house of the Lord at Shiloh, Hannah got up. She was deeply distressed and she cried bitterly as she prayed to the Lord. Meanwhile, Eli the priest was sitting in his place by the door. Hannah made a solemn promise. Lord Almighty, look at me, your servant. See my trouble and remember me. Don't forget me. If you give me a son, I promise that I will dedicate him to you for his whole life, and he will never have his hair cut. Hannah continued to pray to the Lord for a long time, and Eli watched her lips. She was praying silently, Her lips were moving, but she made no sound. So Eli thought that she was drunk. And he said to her, "Stop making a drunken show of yourself. Stop your drinking and sober up." "No, I'm not drunk, sir," she answered. "I haven't been drinking. I am desperate, and I have been praying, pouring out my troubles to the Lord. Don't think that I'm a worthless woman. I've been praying like this because I'm so miserable." "Go in peace," Eli said, "and may the God of Israel give you what you have asked him for." "May you always think kindly of me," she replied. Then she went away, ate some food, and was no longer sad. So what's going on in this story is that this woman, Hannah, in the Old Testament, didn't have a child. And that was really bad, especially in the Old Testament era, well, even into the New Testament. If a woman didn't have a child, I mean, that's what women were for. Now, I know it's different today, and I think it's great that it's different today, okay, done. But back then, a woman's job was to bear a family. And she didn't have a child. And so she earnestly prayed for the gift of a child. And interestingly, I think, God delivered. And when God delivered, she turned that child over to the temple to become a prophet and a priest and a leader of the temple. And that became Samuel, and he's the person who anointed King David. So kind of a story there. But the point is the yearning of Hannah to have a child. And you know, I've worked with a lot of adults. And I've worked with some adults who have not had a child. And it brings great pain to their life. I mean, if you don't think your parents care for you, really, they do. Because parents just have this special feeling towards children that you probably won't understand for a while, but someday you will, I hope, maybe. Moms and dads dearly yearn to have a child. Children are really, really important. And so if we think about how important children are, let's think about that in relationship to parents. So I've got a couple slides here to share with you. Children are great imitators. So give them something great to imitate. Okay? Good message for parents. Maybe a good message for you too someday when you become a parent. Children imitate, so give them something great to imitate. Children are apt to live up to what you believe of them. Think about that. Children are apt to live up to what you believe of them. I mean, if your mom and dad don't think much of you, you probably won't do much. But if they have great expectations for you and they really believe in you, you can do it, and you do. So again, think about that someday when you might be a mom or a dad. This one's going to be hard to read, I think, but I'll read it for you. Teaching children to count is fine, but teaching them what counts is best. Teaching kids what counts, what matters in life. Think about that, about how important it is for parents to help their children, you guys, or your children someday, to grow with integrity and understanding what's important in life. Pardon the mess, my children. Pardon the mess. My children are making memories. Oh boy, you know, sometimes other adults get kind of upset. You know, a kid's kind of messy or whatever. You know what? It's let kids be kids and let them make memories. And it's okay. Raising kids, sometimes it's kind of messy. You know, it's kind of messy. This is one of my favorites. Behind every great kid is a mom who's pretty sure she's screwing it up. Behind every great kid is a mom who's pretty sure she's screwing it up. You know, as parents, we think we're messing things up, we're not getting it right. But you guys, you kids, you're pretty resilient, and you do okay. Remember that too, someday, when you're a parent. And remember, most of all, there's always hope. There's always hope, okay? Kids aren't perfect, you guys aren't perfect, but neither are parents. We work on it together, and there's always hope. So I came across this once. I thought this is pretty cool. Dads and sons. This is about dads and sons. Maybe it's also about moms and daughters. Maybe. But dads and sons. So at age 5, think of a little kid. Think of little 5-year-olds. Their dad knows everything. My dad knows everything. My dad is so smart. At age 10, dad still knows quite a bit. At age 15, that's a little closer to your age. Well, dad doesn't know all that much, right? You know, dad isn't all that smart because you're smarter than dad, right? That's kind of where we are. At age 20, dad doesn't know anything. No, dad doesn't know a thing. You know it all. At age 25, I guess dad knows a few things after all. So by the time you get to age 25, you start saying, yeah, I guess my dad knew a few things. And you know what happens when you're 35? My dad is pretty smart. And you know, that's pretty true. That's kind of the way it works. I'm telling you, I remember going through that. So that's a little bit about kids. Well, let's think about parents for a moment. And I want to share another reading with you. This is also from the Old Testament, and this is from the book of Ruth. Okay? In the days when the judges ruled, oh, by the way, remember we said Samuel anointed David as king? Ruth, in this story, she's the grandma of David. She becomes the grandma of King David. Okay, so in the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem in Judah went to live in the country of Moab, he and his wife and 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. But Elimelech died, and Naomi was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. They married local girls. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. When they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, so that the woman, Naomi, remember, was left without her 2 sons and without her husband. She's all alone. Then she started to return with her daughters-in-law from the country of Moab. They decided to go back to her homeland. Because here's the problem. If you're a woman without a husband, you're in big trouble. There are no jobs. Remember, your job is to have children. And Naomi's old. She's not going to have any children. So her best hope is to go back home and kind of beg. And that's what happens in the story. She kind of goes back home and lives on the fringe of the village and kind of begs and gets little scraps. That's the best for her. So she's going to go back home because otherwise she's going to starve. At least if she's begging, she can live. But Naomi, so she's ready to go home. But Naomi said to her daughters-in-law, go back, each of you, to your mother's house. Go back home. You're a widow, but you're still young. Go back. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you find security, each of you in the house of your husband. Remember, their husbands have died. So Naomi is sending them back to their own home. Maybe they can marry somebody else who will take care of them and they can provide children for that man. That was the way it worked. So she kissed them and they wept aloud. They're very sad. They said, no, we will return with you to your people. But Naomi said, turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Do I still have sons in my womb? I'm not going to have any more children, okay, to be your husbands. Turn back. Go your own way, for I am too old to have a husband. Even if I thought there was hope for me, even if I should have a husband tonight and bear sons, would you then wait until they were grown? Would you refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, it has been far more bitter for me than for you, because of the hand of the Lord has turned against me. Then they wept aloud again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to hers. So she said, look, your sister-in-law, that's Orpah, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and her gods. You go with her. Return after her. But Ruth said, do not press me to leave you or to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, your God, my God. Where you die, I will die. There will I be buried. May the Lord do thus and so to me, and more as well, if even death parts me from you. When Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more to her. So here's what's happening. Naomi has 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion. They marry 2 women, Orpah and Ruth. in the foreign land, in a different land. Naomi's husband dies, Mahlon and Chilion die. So you've got Naomi and her 2 daughters-in-law, and they're all widows. Now it was the custom that if a man died without children, and Mahlon and Chilion had no children, because the children would take care of the widow, okay? If they died without children, the other reason that's important is that if I'm Mahlon, for example, and I have a child, he will continue to bear my name, right? Just like we do today. I've got a daughter, her name is Schmidt, okay? Just like mine. But if you have no children, there's no one to bear your name. So Mahlon married to Orpah, I think. Mahlon dies. Orpah would marry Mahlon's brother. Except Mahlon's brother is married to Naomi already, or to Ruth already, and he died too. So there are no brothers to marry. So that's why Naomi said, I'm not going to have any more children. I'm not going to have any more in my line. You need to go home, go back to your home, and find somebody else. Now, that's going to be a tough thing to do. These girls are old. They're probably 25 years old. That's old in that culture. But that's their only hope. So Orpah does that. She goes back to her family home. But Ruth says, no. I am part of you now. And where you go, I go. And where you live, I live. And where you die, I will die. And there I will be buried. I have made a commitment to you because you have now become my mother. So that's important. I mean, what a great mom. Naomi must have been a great mom. Mother-in-law, but a mom. So I wanted to share that story because that's kind of a cool story about parents. But I also want to share a couple slides that I found about parents. Heaven must be really small because I can see it in my mom's eyes. I can see heaven in my mom's eyes. Isn't that great? If you think that being a great parent requires limitless amounts of patience, I think being a great parent, you got to be really patient, you are wrong. You need more than that. Love your parents and treat them with loving care, for you only know their value when you see their empty chair. Think about that. Love your parents and treat them with loving care, for you will only know their value when you see their empty chair. Your parents may not be perfect, but they are the most precious gift God has ever given to you. Think about that for a moment. God brought you into being. And I'll tell you this. I know as a parent, the greatest gift I have is the gift of my daughter. But I also know that an equally great gift, my mother and my father. Think about that. Think about it. God has given you life, and God has given to you your parents. What a great gift, huh? Isn't that great? The most beautiful thing in this world is to see your parents smiling and know that you are the reason behind that smile. You think so? Okay, here's a funny quote. Ready for this one? Respect your parents. They passed school without Google. Okay, just want to throw a little humor in there. I can't use that much longer. Pretty soon I'll have to stop using that one. And then finally, in the midst of the challenges that we have with our parents, sometimes parents aren't perfect. I know, they're not perfect. But you know what you got to do? Just keep hoping. Just keep hoping. Mom and Dad, they're trying. They're doing their best. Nobody gave them an owner's manual on how to operate kids. They're working at it. Be patient with them too, okay? So then I found something. Remember I said before about dads and their sons. I found something about moms and daughters, but it might be true about dads and sons too. At age 6, okay, a kid says, "Mommy, I love you." At age 10, kid says, "Mom, whatever." At age 16, "Oh, my mom is so annoying." Is that about right? Am I about right there? At age 18, "I want to get out of this house. Can't wait to get out of this house." At age 25, Mom, you were right." At age 30, "I want to go to Mom's house." At age 50, "I don't want to lose my mom." Because if you're 50, how old is Mom at that point? 70, 75, 80, 85? "I don't want to lose my mom." And at age 70, "I would give up everything for my mom to be here with me." You think that's about right, So think about that, that when we're younger, when we're younger, Mom is so annoying and I want to get out of this house, can't wait to get out of here. But there will come a time when you will say, I would give up everything to have my mom with me right now. Okay? The fact is, as much as we try, we are not tens. We are not perfect. We try as best as we can, to be perfect, but whether we're kids or whether we're adults, it doesn't work that way. We're just not perfect. Okay, so now for our Zoom class on the first Wednesday of December, 6 o'clock. Don't miss, please. Use the same link we've been using, but I'll send a reminder out. You should have the worksheet. The worksheet, you can download that from the website. Make sure you've got that. What I've got is I've got some things for you to think about before the Zoom class. Things I want you to write out, just a few things, and then there's also a homework assignment which is due in January, in our first class in January. So 2 parts to it. So the first part, I want you to ask some questions here. What makes for the perfect kid? What do you think makes for the perfect kid? And parents, of course, would say, well, the perfect kid gets straight A's and does it. Nah, they might not say that. But, adults have certain views of what a perfect kid is. You might have different views. But think a little bit. When we think about what does it mean to be a really good, perfect, if you were going to be the perfect kid, what makes for the perfect kid? Come up with a couple things that make for the perfect kid. And then, what does it take to be a perfect parent? I don't know if you can see the cartoon with the kid's got his in the closet, the Superman cape, and the kid says, see, I told you. And the other person says, so that's how she does it. Because she's Superman or Superwoman or something, Supermom. So what does it take to be a perfect parent? And I know, you might say, well, the perfect parent gives me all the money I want, buys me everything I want, for Christmas, takes me everywhere. But think seriously. What makes for a perfect parent, or a really as perfect a parent as we can get? Okay, what would you want? If you could go in the basement and build a perfect parent, what would a parent be like? Okay, so that's the first part of your homework for December. The second part for the Zoom session is be real. I want you to be real for a moment, okay? If your mom or dad ran into somebody that they knew in college. Let's say it's somebody they knew years ago when they were in college, maybe as their college roommate or something, and they haven't seen them for years. And they run into them, and they get a chance to chat with them, and they start talking about what's happened in their life, including their family, and they say, well, then I got this 9th grader. Oh, my 9th grader. What would they brag about? What would they brag about for you? Are you, and it kind of goes back to some of what we talked, remember we talked in September about your spiritual gifts, remember that? What would they brag about? What would they say to their friends? My kid is so cool because my kid, whatever, okay? So, and it might make you feel a little uncomfortable, but what do you think they would brag about? And then second, if you ran into somebody you hadn't seen for a while, maybe it's your best friend from kindergarten moved away and now they come back to visit and they say, so what's it like at home these days? Well, my parents aren't so bad after all, I guess, because why? Why are your parents not so bad after all? Okay? So think about that. But then I want you to think about something else, okay? So let me take a few moments to share with you. This is a nice prototypical family. Happens to be my family. That is me right there. This is from about, I'm going to guess 1976, so I'm probably about 15 or 16 years old in this picture. We're camping. You see our camping trailer over here. We're out in the woods. We did a lot of that. This is my family. And I'll tell you something about my family here. So I'm right here. I'm the oldest in the family. And this is my sister, Kathy. Kathy is an adopted child. We adopted her when she was, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks old. I remember holding her. I remember being the first one to hold her. Yeah. Every once in a while we'd get into a little argument and I'd say, should have dropped you when I had the chance. I didn't, because I loved her. And I still do. And so this is my sister Kathy. Now she is a nurse in Chicago. And she works with people who are dealing with substance abuse. So she works in a clinic. but she's also worked with kids in a pediatric psych unit, psych hospital. She's extraordinary. I mean, absolutely extraordinary. But you know what her greatest gift is? Her greatest thing, I think, is my sister loves the underdog. She just loves the underdog. If she thinks you're picking on somebody, not necessarily bullying, but just saying things about them and running them down a little bit, be careful, because my sister is like a pit bull. I mean, you are in big trouble, pal. She sticks up for the underdog. She just has that streak about her that she cares for people who are being messed with. So that's Kathy. And that's a gift that she shares with us. This is Mike. Mike is also adopted. Mike died last year. Had a lot of health issues. But let me tell you about Mike. You know, he was kind of rough around the edges. You know, he's kind of rough around the edges type of guy. Scraggly hair, got a couple tattoos. He was, but when Pastor Gene and I got married, it was 96 degrees and the church didn't have air conditioning. And after the wedding, we were doing pictures and we're just dying. I mean, just dying up there. And they had a reception downstairs. It was Pastor Gene's church. He was very active in that church. He went down to see if he could get some water. No, you can't take water up in the church. He didn't listen to him. He found a tray. He found some cups. He filled it up with ice water, and he came up. And in the middle of just dying and just dripping and dying in these wedding pictures, there's Mike with the gift of water. Just so thoughtful of him and willing to do that even when someone said, no, you can't do that. He'd do it anyway. That's a gift that Mike had. And then there's Dan over here. Now Dan is the youngest, and Dan is the only one that's blood related. So he was born into the family. And Dan is like me. I mean, he's perfect. He's just like me, so he's perfect. What more can I say? No, not really. Dan and I just always got along so well because we have a lot of similar interests. He's got family up in the Twin Cities and does some really good stuff. Does a lot of stuff with the Boy Scouts and with his church. I'm really proud of him. He's about 9 years younger. And then there's Sam. Okay, now Sam is not an adopted child, and he was not born in family. He was a foster child who was with us for 12 years. For 12 years. And he's, you know, to this day, he will call me up and say, how's mom doing? He lives in Alaska now. But here's what I really love about Sam. Sam is the one who will do anything to do family stuff. He lives in Alaska, but he'll fly down here for a weekend reunion if it's important. You know, I mean, he's done that. He's come, he has made the effort to stay connected. He's the one who says, we gotta get the family together again. Because that's important to him, and that becomes a gift to us. And of course, my mom and my dad back there. Now here's what I'm getting at. Part of this is gonna relate to one of the options for your homework for January, okay? And we'll get to that in a moment. But the other thing I want you to think about here, as you look at this picture, is if I say to you, here's my family, this would be my family. If you said, what was your family like? Who's in your family? This would be the family I grew up in. You'll notice that there are no grandparents in the picture. And the reason there are no grandparents is my grandparents lived in Wisconsin, we lived in New York. Yeah, they were important there, but they weren't really family. But this kind of motley crew was. You know, even Sam and Mike and Kathy and Dan, I mean, they were all part of family for me. Now, if you go to my daughter and you ask my daughter, who's in your family? In fact, she did this for school last year. She had to fill out a form, and the form was, who's in your family? She said, my mom, my dad, and my grandma. Because grandma's part of her life. So here's the point. Here's what I'm getting at. If you were to sort of take a selfie of your family, kind of a figurative selfie, who's in your family? Okay, so you got your mom, maybe, or a dad. Maybe you got a brother or a sister. Maybe Uncle Charlie, who lives 3 doors down and is always at your house. Maybe you'd say he's a big part of our family. Or maybe it's the next door neighbor. Or maybe it's grandma and grandpa because they live across town and you see them a lot. Or it's a cousin. Who's in our family, okay? Who's in our family is in some ways kind of a legal definition, you know? I mean, who are you kind of stuck with? But sometimes family can be bigger than that. Our family might include a bigger circle because those are the people we interact with and have become part of our unit, our package, so to speak. So my package included Two people who are adopted who I love dearly. They're just as much part of my family. And then there's Sam, who's a foster child, you know, who is just as much a part of our family. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like if you're a football fan and you follow the Packers, okay? And Aaron Rodgers, the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers. Woohoo, isn't that great? Remember Brett Favre? Maybe you don't remember Brett Favre. You've heard the name. Brett Favre was the great quarterback before Aaron Rodgers. The Packers did not draft Brett Favre. He was drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, and the Packers traded for him. Does anybody care? Of course not. Who cares how we got him? He became a Packer, and a great Packer. That's like a family. Who cares how they've got to be part of our family? They're family, okay? So what I want you to think about is who's in your family? If I say to you, who's your family, who would you include? Are there people outside of mother, father, sister, brother who would be part of your family, like grandpa, grandma, uncle, aunt, cousin, neighbor? I got a friend, or a sister, my sister-in-law, her family had a cottage up in Michigan where we used to live. They call them camps. Okay, so they had this camp on a lake, and they had it for years. It had been in their family for years. They went there all the time. And there's this old guy who lived next door. His name was Mutri. Mutri became part of their family because he had no other family, and they kind of adopted him. He became part of their family. You know, I mean, it was a very special thing for them. Mutri was very special to them. So maybe there's somebody like that who you'd say, yeah, that's kind of part of my family. Think about who might be a part of your family. Okay, almost done. Finally, your homework. Here's what I want you to do for your homework. The homework is the second page of the worksheet that you downloaded, and I want you to do one or the other. Okay, one or the other, not both. And what I'd like you to do is to give me 2 pages, no more than 2, more than 1 page, no more than 2 pages, okay, of kind of like a paper, a little mini paper. And I want you to do one of 2 things. Either, what are the gifts that I see in the members of my family? So just tell me about each person in your family, mom, dad, sister, brother, each person, or if it's somebody else like Mutri or an uncle or somebody, what are the gifts that person has? Remember how I talked about the gifts that each of my brothers and sisters shared? Just one example. What are the gifts of the members of your family? That's one thing. Or do that, or find an older family member, preferably 2 generations above. That means grandparents or a great uncle, great aunt. If you have to go to mom or dad, that's okay, but I'd like you to go one more than that. And just ask them, what was Christmas like when you were young? And how has Christmas changed? How's the celebration of Christmas changed over the years? And just see what they come up with, see what they share with you, okay? And what I want you to do, as it says on the worksheet, again, no more than 2 pages, at least 1 page. Write it out, send it to me, scan it, or take a picture, whatever you need to do to get it to me, because I'd like that by our January class, so the first Wednesday in January. Get that to me. By the way, the other worksheet, the stuff for the Zoom session, I don't need to see that. I just want you to have that for the Zoom class. So again, one of these, scan it, write it out, scan it, take a picture, whatever, and get it sent to me. And then coming in January and February, we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about money, how we handle money, how we take care of it. You'll get that when you're a senior in high school. There is a class that they teach. We're going to kind of give you a little head start on that in terms of how you handle money and the things you start thinking about, because you're going to get a job, you're going to start having some control over money, and that can be a wonderful tool and instrument, or it can be really not so good. So that's what's coming up in January and February. So thanks a lot for being a part of class here. Know that we think about you, we pray for you. We got some, we're going to try to do some fun stuff for Christmas as we get ready for Christmas. We'll have some, of course, the Sunday YouTube video worship, but also Wednesday. We're going to do some Wednesday worship. And then Christmas Eve, 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock for, I think it's 3 o'clock, 3 or 3:30, 3 o'clock, and 7 o'clock for Christmas Eve worship. The 7 o'clock service, we're going to be in a barn. We're going to go out to a farm and be in the barn for Christmas Eve worship. A lot of fun stuff coming up. So thanks again for joining me. I'll see you on the Zoom session on the first Wednesday of December, which would be the 2nd, I think, December 2nd at 6 o'clock. And I'll send a reminder out to parents. Okay? Thanks so much. Take care. Miss you guys. Hang in there. Be good. And know that God loves you. Bye-bye.